Hello my yarny friends, I'm Sara Sach and welcome back to my crochet channel. Today's video we're going to make a cupcake cowl with two fun pom-poms. They're super cute, super easy to make, and I think you're really going to enjoy this stitch. Now it measures approximately 27 inches around and it's about 8 inches tall. It just depends on how tightly you stitch. Now this is the second pattern that I made to help celebrate my birthday because February is my birthday month. And I thought it was super fun to learn the cupcake stitch and make a cowl. And of course, everybody loves pom-poms. This cowl can be used, of course, to keep your neck warm, but wouldn't it be fun to make for the birthday girl or boy and make it in their favorite flavors of cupcake? My husband likes orange and chocolate. I bet that would make a really cute cowl. So anyway, you can find the complete pattern with pictures as well as the measurements and multiples to make it longer or wider, however you want to make this particular cowl. So it's a super versatile pattern once you learn those stitches. So let's get started and make our cupcake stitch cowl. To make the cupcake stitch cowl the way that we have made it, you're going to need two different yarns, about 3.5 ounces of each, and these are medium weight number 4 acrylic yarns. I chose this one. It's called Fruit Salad. I love this yarn from Hobby Lobby because I think it looks like white frosting with lots of sprinkles. Exactly what I was looking for. And then I chose this bright pink. It is also from Hobby Lobby. I love this yarn. I believe it's called Hot Pink or Bright Pink. I don't have the label anymore. But you're going to need whatever color that you want to use for your corresponding color. And it doesn't have to be pink. And it doesn't have to be sprinkles either. You can do yours however you want. You're just going to need about 3.5 ounces of two different medium weight number 4 acrylic yarns. We're going to be stitching today with our eye hook, which is a 5.5 millimeter crochet hook. You're going to need a needle for weaving in ends and a pair of scissors. Now, as you saw at the beginning of the video, this cowl has two pom-poms. Now, you can use a pom-pom maker to make yours or some other method to make yours. It's up to you how you want to do your pom-poms. At the end of this video, I am going to show you how I do it, merely just using my fingers and my scissors. All right? It's a really simple method. It's not as technical, but it's up to you what works best for you in making pom-poms. We're going to be starting with color 1, which is my sprinkle yarn. And we're going to be stitching a row of foundation double crochets. And that's because we're making a cowl and we want it to be stretchy and comfortable to wear. So we made our slip knot and we're going to chain 4. Yarn over, go in that 4th chain and pull up a loop. Yarn over and just go through that first loop. Now we'll yarn over, go through the next 2, yarn over and go through the next 2. When we're making our foundation double crochet, we're doing our chain and our double crochet at the same time. So yarn over, go in that first chain that you made, pull up a loop, yarn over and just go through the first loop. Now yarn over, go through the next 2, yarn over and go through the next 2. And that's how the foundation double crochet is stitched. It makes a nice stretchy row, like I said, that is comfortable to wear, especially for a cowl. I like to use it for headbands and other things as well, that I want a nice stretchy edge. Yarn over, go in that chain that we made and pull up a loop. Yarn over, go through the first loop. Yarn over, go through the next 2, yarn over and go through the next 2. And we're going to stitch 71 foundation double crochets for the size that I am making. And when you're counting your foundation double crochets, make sure you count this chain 3 at the beginning here that we didn't stitch in. And you'll see that it's nice and comfortable and stretchy to wear. All right, so we're going to make a total of 71 foundation double crochets. I have stitched my 71 foundation double crochet stitches. And remember, in counting, you count this chain 3 that we skipped when we started in the 4th chain from the hook. Now we're going to join this into a circle. Make sure you do not twist it. We're going to join to that 3rd chain with a slip stitch. We're not going to chain 3 because we're going to be changing colors. But before we do that, you'll notice that there is a gap here. And so you'll take your tail of yarn and thread it onto your needle. And we'll close up that gap. And what I do is I sort of pull that loop a little bit bigger so it doesn't come undone. And then we'll put these 2 ends together. Just like that. We don't want that to come undone. And then I'll weave that to the inside. I'm just going to the inside there. And I'll clip that. So now we don't have a gap where we joined. And we don't have any twists. And that's the way that row 1 should look. So now we're going to bring in our next color. We didn't chain 3 with our first color when we joined because we're going to bring in our new color, and that chain 3 that we do with our new color is going to count as our first double crochet. We're not going to cut our first color. We're going to trail our colors on the inside of our cowl. All right, so I've got my new color brought in and I'm going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to make sure everything's snug down back here. Now what we're going to do is in this first stitch, which is our chain 3 from that previous row, we're going to stitch 3 more double crochets. Our chain 3 counted as 1 and we're stitching 3 more. So that makes 4 double crochets. Now we're going to skip the next 2 foundation double crochets, and then in the next stitch we're going to stitch 4 double crochets. 1, 2, 3, and 4. All right, so this is making the bottom of all of our cupcakes. Skip the next 2 and stitch 4 double crochets in the next. Skip the next 2 and stitch 4 double crochets in the next. This would be really pretty with yellow, teal, or even brown, so it looks like chocolate cupcakes. And see how that looks? Super cute already. Skip the next 2, 4 double crochets in the next. And we're going to repeat this all the way around our row or our round. Since we joined them, of course, they're rounds. But we'll be stitching this all the way around and then join back to that first chain 3. I completed row 2, stitching my 4 double crochets in one stitch, skip the next 2 all the way around, and you're going to have 23 of these shell stitches, which are 4 double crochets. We're going to skip those last 2 stitches and we're going to join to the top of that chain 3. Now we're not going to chain 3 because we're going to bring back in our color 1. All right, and now we're going to make the tops of those cupcakes. So now we're going to make the tops of our cupcakes. This first one is done a little bit different than the rest of them. We're going to start with the chain 2, and we're going to stitch all 4 of them together. So we're going to yarn over, go in that next double crochet, pull up a loop, yarn over, and just go through the first 2 loops. Now we'll yarn over, go in the next double crochet, pull up a loop, yarn over, and just go through the first 2 loops. And we'll do that one more time in that last double crochet. So now it looks like I have 4 unfinished double crochets. We're going to yarn over, pull that loop through all 4 of those loops, and chain 2. Now we'll go to the next set of 4 double crochets, or our next shell stitch. So we'll yarn over, go in the first double crochet, pull up a loop, yarn over, and go through the first one. And then we'll finish it off the same as we did that first shell stitch. So we're basically doing 4 double crochets together. Now we have the 4 double crochets and this loop. So we'll yarn over and go through all 5 of those loops and chain 2. And see how that forms the top of our cupcakes? It seems a little complicated at first, but once you get going, it's really quite simple, okay? And I do suggest that this particular row, you loosen up your tension just a little bit because the tops of the cupcakes lay better when they're stitched just a little bit loose. Chain 2. Isn't that adorable? All right, I'll talk you through another one. We go in the first double crochet, pull up a loop, yarn over, go through the first 2 loops. Yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, go through just the first 2 loops. And repeat that 2 more times. So we have all 4 of the double crochets stitched together, plus the extra loop. So we have 5 loops. Yarn over, go through all 5 of those, and chain 2. On row 2, where we did the shells, it might have seemed like it was pulling out just a little, but when we do this row, it pulls it back in to shape. All right, and so that's what you're going to do for the remainder of row 3 is stitch your 4 shells together on each of the shells to form the tops of our cupcakes, and then chain 2. And of course, we'll do this all the way around and join back over here. I completed row 3, which is the tops of our cupcakes. Here's my last chain 2. I'm going to join to the top of that chain 2 with a slip stitch, and now I'm just going to go over here to this chain 2 space and slip stitch. Okay, now I'm going to bring back in my pink where we carried it up on the inside. There we go. I'm going to snug those down. And now in this chain 2 space, I'm going to stitch a chain 3 and then 3 double crochets. So now our cupcakes are going to be stitched in the chain 2 spaces that we made between the tops of our cupcakes. All right, and we don't chain 2 between the bottoms of our cupcakes. We go right to the next chain 2 space and stitch 4 double crochets. Now that first one we stitched a chain 3 and 3 double crochets because the chain 3 counted as our first one. All right, and for row 2, we're just going to stitch 4 double crochets for our shell stitch in each of the chain 2 spaces, working all the way around our cowl. And this is how all of the cupcakes will be stitched. We'll be stitching them in the chain 2 spaces. Isn't that cute? This is a really fun pattern, and it does seem a little bit complicated when you're first starting it. But once you get your rhythm down, oh, I'm telling you, it is super fun to make and super cute to wear. I can't wait to wear this one. All right, so we're stitching 4 double crochets in each of the chain 2 spaces between the tops of our cupcakes. I completed row 4, stitching 4 double crochets or shell stitch with 4 double crochets in each of the chain 2 spaces all the way around. And so now again, I'm going to join to that chain 3 with a slip stitch. I'm going to bring in my color 1 and chain 2. Now I do want to show you the inside of our cowl. See how it's going to gently kind of go over to the side? It's going to do that because as we do this, it's going to be moving because we're going to go in the chain 2 spaces each time. All right, and so row 5 here is the same as row 3. All right, so we're going to start with our first cupcake, and it's going to be the same as we did down here for our first stitches, because we're going to start with our chain 2, then we'll go in our next double crochet and do the way we did the other ones. And this one will just have 4. We'll yarn over, go through all of those, and chain 2. Then we'll go to our next set of 4 double crochets and stitch it the way we did all the other ones. That first one is different because that's where we join. So we just chain 2 to count as that beginning of that first double crochet. So we have the 4 and then the 1 loop left from the previous. We go through all those and chain 2. And row 5 is stitched exactly the same as row 3. So again, we're making the tops of our cupcakes. And again, you'll also notice when you do the row that has the bottom of the cupcakes, it sort of spreads out a little. And then when we do the row that has the tops of the cupcakes, it pulls that back into shape so it makes nice straight rows. All right, so let's continue with row 5, stitching the tops of our cupcakes. And again, you're going to have 23 cupcakes on each row because we're not adding or subtracting or subtracting, goodness gracious, any stitches. I should say you're eating any cupcakes, huh? Alrighty, so row 5 is exactly the same as row 3. Stitching the tops of our cupcakes. So I again completed the tops of my cupcakes. That's row 5. And so to join, we've got our last cupcake top here in our chain 2. We're going to join to that chain 2 with a slip stitch, and then we're going to go to that chain 2 space and stitch a slip stitch, and then again we're going to bring back in our color 2. Okay, and so we're going to stitch our cupcakes in all the chain 2 spaces of row 5. And so what you're going to do is you're going to continue to repeat row 4 and row 5 for 6 more rows, and that'll get you 3 more rows of cupcakes, or more if you want a taller cowl. So we're going to repeat row 4 and row 5 for 6 more rows, alternating your rows so that you'll get 3 more rows of cupcakes. I repeated row 4 and 5 for 6 more rows, or 3 more sets of cupcakes. Isn't that adorable? I just love it. It's super cute. I went ahead and cut off my color 1, and we're going to do our last row with our color 2. All right, so we joined like we normally do to the chain 2 and then slip stitched in the next chain 2 space. We're going to bring up our color 2. And again, I just want to show you how it looks on the inside. It just has a little bit of a gradual pull over because every time we go to the next chain 2 space. All right, okay. Now what we're going to do for our last row is we're going to go in the chain 2 space in this first one and chain 3, and then I'll stitch 2 more double crochets. 1, 2. Then I'll stitch 1 double crochet in the top of our cluster that we stitched for the top of our cupcake. Then we'll go in the next chain 2 space and stitch 3 double crochets. 1, 2, 3, and then 1 double crochet in the top of our cupcake. And this is going to give us a little bit of a even edge for our cupcake without looking like another bottom of a cupcake. So 3 double crochets in the chain 2 space and 1 double crochet in the top of that frosting of our cupcake. And we'll just do that all the way around the top, and that's going to give us a little bit smoother edge to resemble this edge on the top of our cupcake. All the way around and join back to our chain 3. I completed this row stitching 3 double crochets in the chain 2 space and then 1 in the top of my cupcake. That just gives us a little bit more of a solid row than going ahead and doing another row of the 4 in the chain 2 space. All right, so here's my last double crochet. I'm going to join to that chain 3 with the slip stitch. I've cut my yarn, and so I'm going to go ahead and go in that next loop and pull that loop to the inside and tie that off. Now I have only 2 ends at the beginning and 2 ends at the end to weave in because I carried that yarn up. So my cowl is all weaved in, all neat and tidy. And the next thing we're going to do is make the pull tie and the pom-poms. To make the pull tie, all we're going to do is take our color 1 yarn and we're going to make a chain that is 100 chains long. And if you want yours to be longer, you can, of course. Keep in mind, if you're making this for a child, you don't want to make it too long that it could be a choking hazard, all right? So I'm just going to start chaining, and I'm going to chain 100 chains. So I've chained 100 or maybe a little more. I lost count after a while. And I'm going to go ahead and tie this off. And I'm going to make a knot right at the end of that chain. And I'm going to do the same thing for at the beginning. And that's just going to help it not come undone. We want to leave the tails on for now because we're going to attach some pom-poms. All right, now you're going to string this through these holes right here. So it's up to you to decide where the front of your cowl is going to be. Mine's going to be right here. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my crochet hook, and I'm going to put it in backwards. And then I'm going to grab my chain and pull it through. And then I'll do that again. Go through a couple. And I'll do this. Oops. There we go. I'll do it all the way around as long as my hook cooperates. All right, then we'll go to the back. And I like doing it the backwards way, going through the backs of it like this with the back of the crochet hook, because I feel like it works better. You can do it however you want to. And I'm just working my way back around where I decided that my front was going to be on my cowl. Now you want to put your string through first before you add your pom-poms, or you won't be able to get it through. I did that the wrong direction. Okay. Alrighty. It's okay. It's almost my birthday. I can be a little bit silly. Get that last one through there. All right, so now we're at the front where we want our ties to be. And you can see if you lay this flat, you don't have a lot of give in that. And I pulled on that just a little bit when I was pulling that through. But when you wear it, you can pull it up like that. All right. Now, I've already got one pom-pom made. I'm going to show you how you attach them. You just take your strings and the string on this end. We're going to move those pom-pom strings out of the way there. We want that tie to be right down in there nice and snug. And tie that on securely. And I usually do 2 knots like that. And then I'll do that other knot that I like to do. Flatten your pom-pom out just a little, because we don't want to lose that pom-pom. Unless you want to make it so you can take it off and wash the cowl. That's totally up to you. All right, and then I sort of floof it out and trim those so they're about the same as the others. And I see I've got one there that's not. All righty. So there's one of my pom-poms for my cowl. There we go. Needs a little floofing, but it looks good. All right, now I'm going to make my other pom-pom in the pink color. And I'm going to show you how I do that real quick. It's a real simple way to make a pom-pom. All right, so you're going to want to cut a piece of yarn about 12 or 14 inches long. And then we're just going to take the yarn and wrap it around our fingers. And I'm going to make a big pom-pom, so I'm going to use all 4 of my fingers. And I'm just going to keep wrapping until I think it's thick enough. A little more. All right, that looks pretty good. So I'm going to grab those loops, cut the yarn, and I'm going to take those loops and I'm going to lay it across that string of yarn. And again, you can use a pom-pom maker if you want to. I just like doing it this way myself. And you can make it fuller by putting more loops on your fingers, or less if you want it to be more of what I call a floofy pom-pom. Then you can do less wraps. It's up to you and what you want to do. All right, so there's a knot. We're going to do 2 more just to make sure that pom-pom's not coming undone. There we go. I'm going to grab my little bucket here that I like to use. And the first thing we're going to do is just cut all those loops. And you might miss some. It'll be okay. You'll find them later like I did. I give it a shake just to see. See, there's some there I missed. Let's get those. And then again, the length you cut your pom-pom determines how big your pom-pom is going to be. All right, I think I got most of those. Is there one there? No. All right, then I give it a good shake. I kind of push it forward. And this is a little bit thicker of one, so I'm not going to cut the whole thing at once. I'm just going to kind of go around the edges like this, across the bottom. And making pom-poms is a messy business, so get you a container or a bowl or something to clip them in, or because you're going to end up with fuzz everywhere. Okay, and then I give it a good shake. I take a look at it. Then I lay it this way, and I sort of flatten it. Just be careful not to cut these strings. And I've always liked my pom-poms to be just a little bit crazy and not perfect. I like that. All right, let's grab this and stick it on this end of our tie. And we'll do it exactly the same. The only difference is we're going to cut the strings a little bit closer because this one is a different color than our tie. Now you could do your tie half one color and half the other if you want them to match. I like it when they don't. I don't want everything to be all matchy-matchy. Alrighty, so I'm doing that last little loop knot that I do there. Get a good hard pull. This time we're going to cut it close. And the reason we're doing that is because we could have gone ahead and cut these farther out, but I wanted this one cut close because it's a different color. And then you just floof it out, and now you've got two pom-poms on your cowl.